Now we're good?
Lights are on. I can see
Okay,
it.
we'd like to welcome everybody tonight to our Riverdale Planning Commission meeting for September the 12th, 2023. We're glad that you're here. Everybody is in attendance as far as the planning commissioners go, with the exception of Wanda Nye, and we have one of our Celeste is here by
Telephone.
Wi-Fi, telephone.
Telephone.
She's here and will be asking questions, I'm sure, as the meeting goes on. If there's anybody here that wants to discuss something that isn't on the agenda, you're welcome to stand up now and give us your name and your residence, and we'll be glad to hear what you have to say. That's non-agenda comments. Doesn't look like we have anybody, so we will go forward with presentation and reports. Mr. Iggett.
Thank you. I just briefly want to note what I noted in the work session. We're working on a floodplain ordinance update that we're required to do by FEMA. I'll bring that to the Planning Commission for a first read on our next meeting. It's been a lot of fun to write and draft that into our ordinance the last little while. So anyway, we'll have it done, and hopefully you'll enjoy it as much reading it as I had writing it. So that's all I'll
Your
say.
hard work, Mike. Okay, consent items. The minutes from our meeting of August the 22nd, 2023, work and regular session. Anybody have any comments or suggestions, corrections? Okay, then,
I'd like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from August 22nd, 2023, the work session and regular meeting.
A second?
all in favor?
Yes.
Yes, and that is unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, our action items. Number 1 is a public hearing to receive and consider comments regarding the proposed rezone request for the property located at approximately 633 West, 4400 South in Riverdale, Utah, as requested by Wright Development Group. Do you want to? Yes, okay, Mr. Eggett.
Did we skip presentations and reports?
No, we did. I just
did it.
briefly talked about the floodplain. Wright Development Group is the petitioner on this one. They're represented today by Logan Johnson, who is with us. It is a request for a combination of RMH1 zoning and a little bit of R4 multifamily zoning to regional commercial C3 to allow for the possibility of a potential future development for a commercial parking lot facility as tied to the Garf Automotive Group operations. And you can see more of that in the application. The zoning around it, as you know, or as can be seen, is RMH1, R5, M1, C3, and then you've got Riverdale Road, and R4, and you got Riverdale Road, 700 West, and the river in close proximity. It's 1.31 acres that's being requested. Public hearing was previously scheduled for today's meeting at the last Planning Commission meeting, and the signage was posted as needed, as well as advertised accordingly on our website and in the building, and also letters went out to affected entities and property owners. The petitioner's property is Garf Properties, Riverdale LLC, and a little bit of H&H, 39th Street Group. I did fail to note that in the Title 10 Ordinance Guidelines, but they did get a letter, so don't worry, we did what we were required to do there. General plan guidance for the area is residential medium density, and although the C3 land use designation doesn't directly match the designation, it does match surrounding uses and neighboring uses in this area, and so it is a complementary use to the area. I've provided, as you can see there, the complementary language of Area 7 as it relates to that location. You'll then see the land use general plan found in the packet, and then you'll see the outline of the area and then the application. And we can get into the detail of the application a little bit more maybe after the public hearing and some of the, there's a letter from Mr. Johnson as well as the site. So I think with that, I would defer to the Planning Commission to move forward with the public hearing, and then we can discuss the merits thereafter.
Okay.
Thank you.
Then I believe we should be ready for a motion to open our public hearing. May we have a motion?
I'll make the motion that we open the public hearing for the proposed rezone for property located at approximately 633 West, 4400 South, Riverdale, Utah, requested by Wright Development Group.
May we have a second?
I second.
Choose who you will.
Randy?
Okay, all in favor,
Yes.
say yes.
Yes.
Yes. And did you want to poll the commission on this one? Don't need to? Okay, that was unanimous as well. And so the public hearing is now open.
Nobody's here?
We don't have anything online.
Okay. Then,
Move that we close the public hearing.
thank you, Rick. A second?
Seconded?
All in favor?
Yes.
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 Thank you. That is unanimous as well. So we can go into Part B, consideration to forward a recommendation to City Council regarding the proposed rezone request from Mobile Home Park Residential Vehicle Park RMH1 zoning and multiple family residential R4 zoning to regional commercial C3 zoning for property located at approximately 633 West 4400 South Riverdale, Utah. 84405 is requested by Wright Development Group. Now, did you want to make it more?
I didn't have a whole lot more to add other than just to note that be sure you read through the letter from Mr. Johnson. It's a short but direct letter that explains the intent, and then you'll see that the lot. When you look at the plat that was been previously approved, it's all of Lot 2. To make it more clear, it's all of Lot 2, which is found on page 21. The letter, if you're curious where that's at, is on page 19. And then obviously the checklist showing that the public hearing notice requirements have been met. So that's all I wanted to add in addition to what I previously noted.
Okay, is Mr. Johnson in attendance? Thank you. Would you please state your full name and your city of residence?
Logan George Johnson, 1178 West. Oh, I'm sorry, Centerville, Utah. This is part of the apartment project that we previously had approved. Garf, if you knew, owned the corner that's part of that project, and this was part of a land swap to make that happen. So the plat, as Mike said, anticipated this, and per staff's suggestion, we withheld this rezone application until after the site plan was approved. And so we anticipate to have a forthcoming simple site plan after this. The intended use is a parking lot for the Garf group. And so we hope to have that before you soon. It will be obviously a simpler site plan than our last, but just a little context there. And appreciate your consideration and happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners, questions?
I'm wondering what's taking so long getting that area cleaned out.
It's a fair question. I was on site 2 days ago with Rocky Mountain Power. In order to pull a demo permit, there's about 4 to 5 different entities that have to check off, from gas and power, the city, the health department for asbestos inspections, and then there's an additional layer with the ownership of the trailers that are on site. They have additional protections from the state. From my understanding, Rocky Mountain Power is our last box to check. I've been calling Sage Demolition, who's our demo crew, probably on a weekly basis, just saying, get out there, and they've said, I just need Rocky Mountain Power to kill it. So we made some calls. I met with them on site just a couple days ago. Glad to see those weeds got knocked down on the corner. And we're anxious as you are to see it go. You know, we've had some chats with the mayor. He's made it clear he'd like to see it go. So we're doing what we can, and we're just moving at the speed of the utility companies, which is unfortunately not too fast. So.
Unfortunately for Utah Power, not the speed of light.
Yeah, that's right. Either I should have had that one. Sorry.
Everybody who lives here keeps asking all of us,
That's fair.
what's the holdup?
Yeah, you just give them my number, but not my cell, but my office number. And you know,
give
we'd
them
be
your
happy
cell.
Yeah, we've had a few phone calls too. Some people asking if they can have doors and things like that. But anyway, we are anxious as you are. We understand, and we're going as quick as we can.
And are
Thank
you
you.
still trying to get with the DMV and titles and all that as well?
Yeah, we will be able to do a lot of the demo. There could be a stage if Rocky Mountain Power lets us go that we can just start knocking things down, clearing things, pulling up the underground lines and such. And there's a chance there'll be 2 or 3 trailers that we just can't touch for a little bit.
Because
But-
of the DMV?
Yeah, and it's just a very strong renter protection laws that are in place to protect low-income families. So we're just, you know, our attorneys have just advised you got to check every box and be real careful. So
Fair enough.
Thank you.
thank you.
Do we have a motion for a recommendation to City Council?
I'll make a motion to the city council for the proposed rezone request for a mobile home park, recreational vehicle park, RMH1 zoning, and multiple family residential R4 zoning to regional commercial C3 zoning for property located at 633 West, 4400 South, Riverdale, Utah, 84405, as requested by Right Development Group.
Is that a favorable recommendation or otherwise?
Favorable.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank
Sorry.
you. Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Would you please poll the commission, Michelle?
Commissioner Noland?
Which?
Oh, yes.
Noland.
That's what I thought she said.
Celeste?
Yes.
Celeste?
Yeah.
Commissioner Polson?
Yes.
Commissioner Escalson?
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Herman?
Yes.
Commissioner Spires?
Yes.
And that is unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, item number 2, consideration to untable proposed approval for recommendation to City Council to take 5 small subdivision requests located at approximately 4023 South Riverdale Road as requested by Reeve and Associates and Blue Lube LLC.
I'll make the motion that we untable the proposed approval for the recommendation to the city council for take 5 small subdivision request located at approximately 4023 South Riverdale Road, Riverdale, Utah, 84405, requested by Reeve and Associates and Blue Lube LLC.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Yes.
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 And that is unanimous. We don't need to pull that. Okay. Mr. Eggett?
Okay. Yeah, I'll just summarize. You're all familiar, I believe, with this. As I noted in the work session, this came before the Planning Commission back on June 13th. At that time, there were some issues and concerns noted by staff and the city engineer, one of which was the addressing. The applicant group has since accepted the addressing as requested or directed, I guess would be the better word, by the city. They're comfortable with moving forward with that understanding. And then you'll know all my concerns have been addressed. I don't have anything outstanding as it relates to the city public works director. Just note that the systems operation and maintenance plan and BMP's approved be recorded with the plat. I did notice that there is an updated set of those documents that was provided for this, even further showing that they've resolved what the public works director is desiring. So those issues have been resolved. He did note I always forget the term, what it is, but the agreement, the reciprocal easement agreement, there were some concerns that Mr. Douglas had noted relative to the sprinkler system. That's since been addressed by them showing us an updated plat that shows that. I don't have updated commentary from Mr. Douglas, however, but the applicant group is aware of that comment and immediately took action to try to show the update of that separate sprinkler system. And then, as noted in the work session, the biggest thing that Mr. Douglas is concerned about is the landscaping that's on the Denny site that is dying, whereas before it seemed to be getting water fine, and the landscaping to the west in front of Staples and Ross, there are some landscape islands that are dying. Both the grass is all dead, I believe, and the trees are dying. So we need to figure out why that's happening and get their watering or their landscaping situation resolved on those. I believe it's one island and a little bit of Denny's and then a couple islands, but I could be wrong. I think Mr. Douglas would be the best person to talk to. He has a pretty good feel of it. I know he's concerned about that. And I will also, like I evidenced in the work session, send a letter to those property owners as well that there seems to be some kind of an issue. But Mr. Douglas's theory is, as a result of the work that's been done on this site, there's been a disruption to the irrigation to those islands, whereas before there was no issue. So and then exhibits have been provided for the agreement, and the agreement's been revised relative to those exhibits. The police department, there's no concerns. Fire, there's no concerns. And there's 5 comments, but they're all associated with the reciprocal easement agreement from our city engineer. Reeves' team took a crack at updating and resolving the agreement. As you see in your packet, there's multiple versions of comments, both some in blue and some in red, trying to make that as tight as possible. But I'm sure if there's anything in Mr. Freeman's comments that need to be addressed or amended, that wouldn't take very much to do so. So that's it. You'll see the application, all the supporting documentation, comments, response comments noted in the packet back to staff. and then the reciprocal easement agreement. And with that, I would defer to the Planning Commission for questions, comments, etc. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you state your name and place of residence?
Yeah, Jeremy Draper, Reeve and Associates here in Riverdale.
Thank you, Mr. Draper. Questions?
I think it's a lot better. You guys came back a lot better and cleaner.
Thank you.
And then, I don't know, do you already have a plan to fix the,
Yeah, so I spoke with Mr. Douglas yesterday about the irrigation system for both Take 5 and Fizz, and also with the landscaping that's been damaged as a result of the construction. We will work with the neighboring properties. The developer did try to reach out and coordinate where some of that existing line work or irrigation lines were during construction. Unfortunately, they got no communication back from those property owners. So they understand that it's something that needs to be addressed to restore that landscaping back to a live state, if you will. One option that may be considered is that they put up a cash bond while this process continues forward, and that gives them time to get their landscape contractor back out there to do that investigation, see what's going on, and reestablish those plants. And so if that's acceptable to staff, we'd like to do that and continue with the subdivision process.
And I would defer to Mr. Douglas on that, but that does seem like it could work if Mr. Douglas was amenable to it.
I guess I'm just wondering get which contractors back?
The landscape contractor that did the
did their
work for
site.
Take
That
5.
did yours?
And see if
Yes.
they could figure out how to solve why the
Oh.
others.
Yeah, have them do some troubleshooting. We've got a landscape architect on staff as well that'd be
Okay.
able to help out. So, in my opinion, this could be tied back to the building permit, which was certificate of occupancy has been issued, and that's still under a 1-year warranty period. And so I believe the city is protected both with the proposed bond and with the warranty period in place for the project.
And to get the adjacent neighboring properties,
Correct.
their water back to
Yes.
get that cleaned up.
Yes. If that's the issue, then
Okay.
definitely.
Any more comments?
So the addressing issue that was key last time, so Take 5 will be 4019 and Fizz will be 4023.
That's correct, yes.
Anybody else? Did a motion on a consideration?
I'd like to make a motion that we forward to the City Council a positive recommendation for the small business subdivision and for the Take 5 and plat with the appropriate that should be recommended to the City Council. The new plat? Is that what we're recommending, is the plat?
Yeah, it's a new small subdivision plat. And then do you have any commentary about staff comments or?
Just that all staff comments be addressed, and that Mr. Douglas is especially satisfied with the landscaping issues and those types of things.
I'll second that.
All in favor? And Michelle, would you poll the commission, please?
Commissioner Anderson?
Yes?
Commissioner Eskelson?
Yes.
Commissioner Herman?
Yes?
Commissioner Noland?
yes,
Commissioner Polson?
Yes.
Commissioner Spires?
Yes.
And that is unanimous. Thank you very much.
you.
Good job, you guys.
Mr. Draper. Okay, item 3, consideration of recommendation to City Council for Kingarf Honda final site plan request located at approximately 950 West Riverdale Road, Riverdale, as requested by Kimley Horn and Kingarf Automotive Group.
Want me to take over?
Yes, Mr. Eggett.
Okay. This came before, as you noted, this is a request by Kimley Horn and Kingarth Honda Auto Group. Chris Bick is present to represent their interest in this. You may remember he was with us at the last meeting. This came before the Planning Commission on August 8th for a preliminary site plan approval consideration amended subdivision plat. At the conclusion of the discussion, the plat was recommended to City Council and approved by the Planning Commission, with the understanding to resolve outstanding staff and engineering concerns. And ironically, we have even seen some updates from some of those concerns that have been addressed with this new submittal, so that was good. The site plan itself was also approved as far as the preliminary, with the understanding to address issues and concerns raised by staff, the engineer, and the Planning Commission during that meeting discussion. Property ownership is Garf Properties La Quinta LLC. General plan guidance is planned commercial high, and the proposed project does meet that requirement. Looking at the staff reviews, I'll look at mine first. I did note when I was looking at the plat itself, under name of approving departments, there were 2 blocks for city engineer. I think it was just an oversight and not a block for planning commission. Going down to page 5, I have discussed this with Mr. Bick, and he is got it in queue to get it going. It's the design review committee portion of that. He now understands what that is entailing and is working on that. I noted originally that there weren't planning locations. They've since sent me an updated landscaping plan, as well as we had a conversation about screening to try to soften the parking areas and the lights from the parking areas from Riverdale Road. I think once he understood what I was seeking, it was easy to address that. And they've since sent me a landscaping update that shows that there's a hedgerow that will go between the parking lot and Riverdale Road along pretty much the majority of the Honda site. So that's definitely a plus. To especially as those plants grow, we do like to see that. UDOT approval, we do need to get that final update access approval from UDOT. As I stated in the work session, UDOT has been a little tricky lately, so they're working through that, and you can see he's nodding his head that they are tricky. So if you want to scratch at a sore spot, ask about that. But anyway. The water rights transfer documentation, I'm sure that they're working on that with Mr. Douglas, but I do know that needs to be done, and that's the extent of my commentary. Moving on to the City Public Works Director, drainage systems operation and maintenance plan to be recorded with the plat. When that time comes, make sure that there's plans for the hydrodynamic separated maintenance schedule. He said he's seeking an orifice plan detail, the SWIP plan for construction site, including the BMPs. I don't know if he just feels like maybe some of the SWIP stuff wasn't clear, but he wanted to make sure that sometimes that's too kind of a boilerplate thing too. Just make sure your SWIP's all in order. And like I said, that's one of the things they sent a bunch of information about, which I normally don't see from a submittal this early. A bunch of SWIP and injection well permits and all kinds of things that I didn't include in your packet, but were provided. So. Approval from UDOT for stormwater connection, which is another approval that they have to give not only on traffic and traffic control, but also to connect to the public facility in the right of way. Water, verify the 6-inch fire line is adequate for fire hydrants, verify existing sprinkler system has backflow, provide water usage peak demands, provide what water shows will be used to meet what, which is that one. A sprinkler system needs to have smart controller on the landscaping. He just wants a note that says that. Proposed sewer flows and peaks, including peak demand time, and then appropriate notes on the plan showing that if any public areas are damaged, they'll be replaced, and then just make sure there's a response letter. So those are his comments. The police chiefs don't note any concerns. The fire chief now is good with everything, said he's good with the changes that have been made, and then he evidences all the things that have been fixed since the last review to his satisfaction. Under the city engineer, there's quite a few plating comments, relative to the Alta and the plat, and then he has a few questions. How are the new existing building and area on the report to create 3.6 acres for stormwater storage as indicated on the drainage report? So he's saying that there's numbers that isn't matching there, which I'm sure Mr. Bick can talk to the engineer and figure that out. Number 4, still that existing irrigation line under the proposed building. He's trying to identify what the plans are for that. That's still a thing that needs to be resolved. Again, more comments about the Alta plat, a UDOT note. Let's see. The irrigation lines that are shown to be partially removed and the other part to remain. Will the irrigation stormwater go with the removal of portions of the pipes? On the east end, it appears there'll be a catch basin with no pipe. So he's seen some things there that don't make sense to him. let's see, yeah, erosion control, UDOT access agreement for construction. Again, existing irrigation line that shows it goes on a proposed building. Is it going to be rerouted? Need letter from irrigation company. I don't know that he had that last time, but that he's seeking some kind of confirmation that there's nobody using it or needing it. Indicate the fire water line in the legend. Another irrigation line that is shown but does not show where it continues to the west. Where is the end? Orifice detail, same as Mr. Douglas. Utility plans include the oil water specifications and location. Is there inspection manhole? Where's the additional sanitary sewer piping being located? Will the roof drains from building be connected directly to storm drain collection system? If so, the piping needs to be shown. Under landscaping plans, decorative stamped concrete hatch is missing from Park Island next to building and L1.10. He says, I don't see any, he said the same thing, but I've since got it. So I need to share that with him to let him see that there is a planning layout now. Detail needs numbers under detail issues, C6.6. And then he has CAM language he wants to see as far as the Riverdale City Engineer block. So those are all his comments that aren't redundant with what's already been said with my review or Mr. Douglas's. The application is thereafter in the packet. Review comments and response comments back to staff, recognizing the concerns noted. Again, they made a really strong effort in sending back information and responding. Let's see. Elevation details and colorations, which will be helpful for the DRC. Lighting plan, access management plan as far as routing and driving around the site. Fire access or fire truck turn exhibit. And you'll note, which is really interesting, they sent me a follow-up after the fact in the upper left-hand corner that the fire chief himself has signed off on it and approved it. So that is, I got one that wasn't, and then I got a follow-up later before the packet that had been approved by the fire chief. So I thought that was good to note. The will serve letter from the sanitary sewer district, and then the plans themselves that are found in the packet. So with that, I would defer to the planning commission to see where you want to go and what questions or comments, concerns you may have for me or Mr. Bick. Thank you.
Would you like to come forward? State your full name and place of residence.
Chris Bick, Saratoga Springs, Utah. Do you need the full address or?
No, that's fine. That's
All right.
sufficient.
Yeah, appreciate your time today. We've been working with the staff, especially on the irrigation, the fire, landscape, and those items. So I feel like now we've kind of got it boiled down to water shares, irrigation, and then UDOT, like you were saying. But the irrigation canal, as far as that's concerned, we've identified there's 3 owners that have rights to it, and we're currently coordinating with them if they need to even use that. I know when we reached out, there was a request to purchase those rights from them, and so we're kind of hoping to just get that all cleaned up and have those water rights purchased, and then instead of just rerouting it around and doing the quick fix for it. So that's the one thing with the irrigation that's kind of holding us up, which is also kind of holding up water shares as well because they're tied together. So those are kind of the 2 bigger items, and then waiting for still first round comments from UDOT on that. But from the pre-application meeting that we had with UDOT, they gave us criteria. We've met that criteria, and with the criteria that we've met, we don't see any reason for any changes or improvements to the UDOT right away. It would pretty much just be, replacing the road with their specifications for the water lines that are abandoned at the main. The rest of the comments, I feel like there's a few of them that are addressed. We'll just need to coordinate with the staff that made the comments, just to kind of show where those items are addressed, and make sure that it's very clear. But I feel like those are the major comments, and I don't feel like there's anything that would keep us from moving forward on this. We're very excited and very willing to get these all addressed and keep things moving forward. But I'm here for any questions if you have any. So
I do have one. So with the owner's rights of the water shares, that's not going to be superseded by your group and give them a opportunity not to say what they prefer. So what I'm saying is they're going to understand and agree to what they want, and you guys are going to come together on some kind of an agreement, because they don't want to have their land shares or water shares probably just taken, revoked from them, and then have no say in that big picture.
Right, yeah.
Okay? So how is that going to come to the surface with their feelings versus the way you guys are headed?
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so I can't remember the gentleman's name right off, but I got it in my email. There is a third party that is involved with this that has reached out and said he'd be willing to purchase those shares if we can just get in contact with the owners and coordinate that with them. And then we can just let the owners know, hey, if you're not using these shares, they'd like to purchase them, and then those shares can go away. The city has, and then this will work out the GARF portion of the shares with the water share agreement. So it's kind of like separate buckets, so that we're not just taking all the water shares and then
Losing the rights to the owners.
right, correct. Yeah.
Okay. So they will have a final say whether to keep it or sell it.
Yep. Yeah, and if they need it, then we'll reroute the irrigation or the irrigation canal in a way that works for them as well. So,
Okay.
yeah.
I'm still feeling like that this is a big enough issue that it needs to be resolved before we move forward. Because if you purchase the water shares, then I guess you can cap off the drainage canal that's underneath and remove it, or just cap it off and leave it. I suppose I don't know what the appropriate thing is for that, but if not, then you have to move it. Is that correct? You have to reroute it so that it if they don't want to sell the shares, or if they want to keep their rights to that water, you have to reroute that canal. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's a portion that is under an existing building that's being demoed. So we could leave that portion in place and still allow them to keep their rights through there. Just in order to clean up the property, we would like to get that removed as well. There's another portion that does go under a corner of the new proposed building. So that one we would just have to bump out around the building, which is just rerouting a pipe to go around the building.
Right,
or
but I
through,
kind of
so.
think we almost need to know what the resolution of that's going to be, one way or the other, before we move forward. That's kind of my feeling.
I have a question. They're not even active lines presently, are they? Do we know?
Yeah, that's what we're trying to.
Because I'm trying to conceive who. I mean, I've lived in Riverdale virtually my whole life, and I can't think of anybody that would be over that end that would be using that.
Trying to figure that out too.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
Yeah, we're fairly confident that they're no longer in use, but we just from a legal standpoint want to make sure that it's all fair. In fact, one of the lines actually has a steel plate over the front of it. That's the one that's going under the new proposed building. And so we don't know how long that steel plate's been in place, but it's definitely been there for a few years because there's rust on it and everything like that. So we know that one hasn't been in use for quite some time without any complaints that we're aware of. But yeah, just hate to have extra easements and lines running through the property if we can get them cleaned up. So.
And then I have my question again. I don't know if you remember, but it looks like, according to what's in our packet, it might be solved with the fire lane coming through.
Yes.
You
Yeah,
know where I'm talking about, where we had there's always a parking lot right there.
I do remember. Yep.
Cars coming in and out all the time, and it's kind of tricky and not very safe. But it looks like you've addressed that issue with it being a fire lane.
Yeah, we've addressed that with the fire marshal. We also on that exhibit show some no parking signs that we've put in there, along with red no parking fire lane striping. And we did provide a circulation plan that is going to show that with this new use, No customers are designated to drive through to that north section, that narrow section. They come in, they drop their car off, their employees take them, do the work on them, and then they actually bring them out the other way so that they can come straight back out. So then it's just, you drive straight in, straight out. You don't have to circulate through the parking lot anymore.
Perfect. So it won't, it'll say no parking. You guys already have that planned.
We do, yep.
Perfect.
Yep, that was one of the comments that was on the approved fire plan, so,
Perfect.
yeah. Thank you for bringing that.
Mr. Agat, I've got more of a question for you. Because this is parsing this out into two different parcels now, even though this is basically a remodel for Honda, it was curious to me why Mr. Douglas made the recommendation approval from UDOT for stormwater connection. Does it have to be redone every time? It would be my assumption that those things would already be in place. Can they not be assumed from one to the other, or is that because we have two different entities?
I mean, they are two unique sites, and so if the stormwater is being upsized or altered, which it probably is because the standard is higher, it has to be brought to the higher standard, and so they would have to go in and get those approvals to bring in the higher standard pipe. And Mr. Bick probably can address this better than I can, but theoretically speaking, that's probably the reasoning for it, is because the stormwater requirements are more, and so in order for it to accommodate, they have to
So it just is
upgrade
an
the pipe.
update to current.
To the current standard,
Standards,
because it's a
okay.
new development. And so with being redevelopment, the standard is you have to bring it up to the current standard, which is, it's like a 90th percentile retention standard, and then the spillway, and then the connection into it. And so it could even be rehabilitation of the pipe. Again, I don't know what's been discussed with Mr. Bix. Maybe I'll let him speak, but that's what I surmise is the reason.
Sure. Yeah. UDOT does require a stormwater agreement to go through with them, just to confirm exactly like you were saying. Make sure it's up to current standards, which we've designed to the current standards, and we've also completed that stormwater agreement and submitted that to UDOT with that first submittal.
Okay.
Thank you. Anybody else? If not, a motion would be in order. The recommendation is City Council.
I would like to propose a favorable recommendation with any staff needed approvals as well for your final site plan request located at approximately 950 West Riverdale Road, Riverdale, Utah 84405, as requested by Kimley Horn and the Ken Garf Automotive Group.
So to clarify, Commissioner Spires, you're saying all staff and engineering concerns be addressed to the satisfaction of staff before it goes to
Yes,
City
sir.
Council on
Yes,
this one?
sir.
Okay.
Have that all laid out and done with the staff and engineers before it goes to City Council.
I'll second that.
Michelle, would you poll the commission on that, please?
Commissioner Spires?
Yes.
Commissioner Polson?
Yes.
Commissioner Herman?
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Eskelson?
Yes.
Commissioner Noland?
Yes.
Okay, and that is unanimous. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, our final item on our action items tonight, consideration of approval for Panera Bread preliminary site plan request located at approximately 4130 South Riverdale Road. Riverdale 84405 is requested by Perigi Consulting and Panera Bread Company Group, excuse me. Mr. Agat.
Thank you. I assume you're Russell, right? Russell Haight? Okay, Russell Haight is present for this item, representing Panera and Perigi's interest in this project. As you noted, it is at 4130 South Riverdale Road, where the old John Paris Furniture building currently sits. Obviously, that building would be demoed as part of the site plan submittal request. It is located in the community commercial 2 zone, and as a result, will need to have a conditional use permit. But that process, the conditional use permit process, and I haven't talked to Mr. Haight about this, but can be run concurrently with a final site plan process when that time comes. So that would be probably the appropriate time to do that. The property is owned by Williamson Riverdale 2 LLC. the general plan guidance is planned commercial high, and this project fits in great with that. This may take a little bit of time, as you know, and I'm going to let Mr. Haight know. The preliminary reviews typically take a little bit of time for me to cover everything because a lot of times it's vetting out all the things. So just bear with us and be patient as I go over it, and then we can go from there in discussion. The first thing I noted is that on the cover sheet, the property owner's name, address, and information wasn't shown, needs to be added. In this case, the developer as well would need to be adding their address, phone number, and information. The approving entity, being the city, needs to be on the cover sheet as well, and I've provided that information. Under licensed land surveyor, seal and signature not provided at this time, but where it's applicable, even when we don't see it initially, we usually see it on the back end when the final project is ready. Adjacent tracts, ownership and tax ID aren't shown or provided in the cover or otherwise in the internal documents. We do like to see that. Existing easements not currently identified. No existing utility easements on site shown. Unknown if their approvals cross use or relocate. Under the vicinity map, no north arrow, no scale. Even a lot of times people just put not scale, but there wasn't even a mention of that. So we do like to see that. Benchmark basis of bearings not shown or identified. I'm deferring to city engineer, but it's not shown, and typically we do see a little bit of an orientation tied to benchmark and basis. Moving on to page 4. Under signage, future final pole sign height is unknown. They are going to use the existing, there are 2 column locations of the existing signage. They're going to reuse that, it looks like, as part of this to move forward. And I don't know if they'll use even the same pole setup. I'll let Mr. Haight talk to that when he comes up, but that may be the intent. But again, we don't know the size, the colors, the lighting for that. Type of construction, we will need to go through design review committee process for this project when that time is right, wherein we'll review the building colorations and materials, signage concepts, and landscape plan. And Mr. Haight or somebody from Perigee or even from Panera can set that up with me, and I can cover that in a future conversation, what that entails. Landscaping, new site development requires general berming and screening locations as found in 10-14-12B2 to screen. And I didn't notice any mention of that. Sometimes people even do shrub row, which we have accepted. We're just looking for some kind of a screening from Riverdale Road to minimize impacts from light and other. In this case, the site may have some elevation, which would work great. And then at that point, it's already it's a site. It's got some site elevation, which maybe creates a little bit of that berming anyway. And then a planting row would be great on that. In existing streets shown, just dedicated right away, not clearly identified. Page 6, location of existing streetlight poles and power equipment not shown. Location of stop signs tied to the site not shown, identified if applicable. The UDOT approval for the site. Just so Mr. Haight knows, we did have a meeting with UDOT today as an RDA project area and the property owners, and so we are trying to navigate that for your client. So you maybe can report that back to them, that, and if they have interest, maybe to contact Mr. Williamson and his group to learn more about how that went. Sidewalk, no detail of widths to verify meeting standards. Top of curb elevations, slope of gutter, and invert elevations, no detail sheets were provided for those. Calculations for the retention system haven't been provided as of yet. Stormwater cleanup, we don't know, that hasn't been provided. Typically it's SWIP sheets, but we don't have those at this time. Sanitary sewer, no detail sheets were provided. And the type of the water meter wasn't identified. Gas, existing gas lines shown, not shown or identified, and the new locations aren't shown or identified. Note. Sometimes we'll even have a note that will say work with gas company to identify final location. Same for typical electrical lines that are part of the site, and telephone lines and fiber optic. So all those things could be done with some commentary in the notes section, and or showing them on the site would work as well. No roadway cross section connection to the curb gutter and sidewalk area to verify it meets our standard. Nor, and you can see that in both those comments, cross section to curb and gutter and cross section to roadway. Gutter inlet box with bicycle safe grate. No detailed drawings were provided, and we have a standard where it needs to say bicycle safe grates, just to make sure that there's no issues there. Clean out box, no detailed drawings were provided in locations not identified, if any. Already talked about drainage and runoff calculations need to be provided. Water rights transfer documentation needs to be provided for the site and working with the Public Works Department. Talked about the conditional use permit that will need to be provided prior to going to City Council, and the Planning Commission is the approving entity for that conditional use permit request. Moving on to staff comments, under stormwater, there's quite a few comments there that are typically what we see for a site like this: drainage system operation maintenance plan, orifice plate freeboard, details emergency overflow, hydraulic separator, BMPs to treat stormwater for the retention system, provide proposed flows, the SWIP documentation that's required, notice intent filed with state, note to certify retention structure size after construction, structure design and materials shown, injection well permit. And then water, meter box and service line design per city standards, provide water usage peak demands, what water shares will be needed, provide valve at main line T for fire line and material type and right away needs to meet Riverdale C standard, water lines need to be hot tapped. He probably is talking about maybe the old water lines being severed. That's what I suspect he's referencing there. Traffic impact study, again, required by UDOT if it's required. I do know that there's an RDA, our development partners with the RDA area, the 550 West RDA does have a traffic engineer that has done some preliminary traffic studies. So I'm wondering if it were required, he could provide some assistance there. So that might be worth linking up with. Sewer, proposed sewer flows, daily and peak, include peak demand time, show existing sewer mains and laterals. Abandoned sewer lines will need to be capped at the property line. Will serve a letter from Central Weaver Sewer Improvement District will need to be provided. Notes requiring all construction and materials meet the standards of the city. Again, if any noting that if any damage was done to city improvements and rights way, they would be replaced. Dimension square footage of each lot. I guess in this case it'd be the lot. Square footage of impervious surface for this lot. Police chief has no comments. Fire chief has no issues at this point. Going over the city engineer's comments, he just would like obviously updated electronic copy of final improvement drawings and details submitted to the Public Works Department. A general note about the improvement drawings is noted by Mr. Douglas. All materials and slopes for pipelines must be called out on the drawings. Riverdale Road needs to be labeled as state route, SR 26 as well. Design and details need to be shown for all retaining walls. Need to show all existing utilities. If they are being removed, show them being disconnected at the main line. Proposed cross-access roadway on the east side of the property will need to have a cross-access agreement prepared as required. Mr. Hate's aware of that. We've talked about that, but that's something where the RDA is a little bit involved as well. Details are called out on sheets that have not been included in the submittal. Please ensure that all sheets referenced are included in submittal. Minimum sewer lateral for commercial development is 6-inch diameter. Fire line is shown as a 4-inch fire line. Fire marshal will need to review and approve. In this case, it'll be the fire chief. We don't currently have a fire marshal, I don't believe. Curb and gutter needs to show the grades to ensure no puddling. It appears there are a few locations where the grade is sloping away from the catch basins. Check spelling APWA, not APAW. Ensure handicap ramps have appropriate landings before and after. Need to show existing elevations of adjacent properties as the design is interconnected. Probably more so, I think, for the drive aisle, but overall it's still helpful so you can get a better identification of how the grades work. Ensure the design of the east cross access roadway is connected to existing grades. Okay, that just matches what I just said. So that water doesn't discharge onto adjoining properties. Need to have stormwater design calculations. Need to have orifice size. Let's see. Underground stormwater system needs to have details and locations for access for maintenance. Stormwater needs to be treated prior to an underground retention system. And again, that goes into the next comment under 17. 18, stormwater maintenance plan need to be developed and submitted for review. And 19, observation manholes 4-inch or 4-foot diameter will be required on both ends of the underground isolation roll. Following that, there's the application and the fee being paid. You'll see thereafter a design detail, which I kind of appreciate. It was nice to see that of the site. One thing I did note with Mr. Haight that I'm a little worried about, and this is just something as you look at the design to think about, the drive aisle, and this is just today, when we talking, but the drive aisle coming in, I was thinking about if you have customers trying to come in off of 300, they have to do kind of an awkward U-turn. And it gets really, I don't know how that would queue up well. It could get real messy real quick, I think. So there might be, maybe look at a strategy to make it not such a deliberate hard U-turn there, but maybe there's some other way they can queue into that. That was one recommendation I saw today earlier when we were talking with UDOT that I think would help the site. You can see the existing elevations and then what the new layout for the building will be, and signage and that sort of thing. Going quite a ways past that, there's kind of a fun bird's eye color rendering of what the building might look like inside and their typical standard, and then what the experience looks like as you walk around inside. And then you'll see finally on page 165 the actual site plan for the project area, documents we've received. And I think that's, yeah, and then there's the lighting plan on the last page, and the landscaping's the few pages prior to that. So with that, I know there's a lot of information like we normally get the preliminary, but I appreciate your patience with me, and I defer to the planning commission to move forward as you see appropriate with the discussion. Thank you.
Mr. Haight, would you state your full name and your city residence, please?
Russell Joseph Haight, and I'm from Western Utah.
Thank you very much. Commissioners?
Seems like a lot of items. Most of them are easy fixes. I think it's just a matter of dotting I's and crossing T's and things like that. So I don't think that there's anything that I noted that was an issue other than what you're working with the UDOT on. Which is between you and them. But and so good luck.
Thank you. We need it.
I do have one question based on a couple of pages here. Page 150 has street access to, looks like headed towards 300, but it's capped with, it says number 7 is a trash enclosure, but you've got 165, I think it is, that's showing it's a through street. Or an attempt, yeah, it's showing that it goes through. Is that just based on the issues that we've got trying to get that access?
That might not be the latest site plan. At one point, we did have a dumpster coming down that road, but that has since been moved, and there's been that through road has been just proposed.
That's the site design sheet, so they probably didn't get the memo, for lack of a better way to say it. That's the designers. So I have a feeling that's I recognize that too for a minute.
The intent is
yeah,
the dumpsters aren't going to be
that's
shown.
That clearly means whoever did the design guide had an older set, and where that was the plan. But that plan, the trash enclosure has since moved closer to the building, and it's kind of on the campus by the building
On
now.
165.
Yeah, it's moved closer to the building now in the new layout.
Yeah, I can see it there.
Yeah. So don't disregard that sheet that has it there.
Okay.
Put it that way.
So where's 300? That's the trash. Riverdale Road. Is this 300?
Well, there's Riverdale Road there. The access is going to come out here to 300
So
over
300
here.
is here.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
So for the snack shack going next to this, it looks like their site's about done, but they did not put that through road yet. Are we still just planning on
That
deadening our road, correct? I don't know if there's been any further-
that will be an RDA effort. That's another.
that's super-
I can't say too much, but we're in a legal discussion about all things relative to that connector. So, from Panera's perspective, keep doing what you're doing and anticipate that until I give you more information. Okay. But keep in constant contact with me. Let's put it this way: your property owner is very anxious about that as well, and that was a key discussion topic today in the UDOT meeting. Yeah.
Panera Bread has good food.
They're huge. They're like 2,000 different places in the United States and Canada. It's a big outfit. It's not the first rodeo, I know that. I've been to the one in Minnesota, and it's awesome.
That's not bad, yeah.
And I think it just needs to be tweaked, like Commissioner Herman mentioned here on our concerns.
Yeah, definitely. And I've never submitted to Riverdale before, so it's good to get all that feedback, and we'll definitely meet your guys' standards on our plans.
I think our closest location is Bountiful. Is that right?
I don't know if
I think
there is one in Harriman, but yes, I get Bountiful.
I used to hit that one every now and then when I was working down that way.
Are you talking about Paradise Bakery though? Maybe that's in Bountiful.
Oh, I don't think so. I think
Because Harriman, I think, is the only one in Utah right now.
maybe
and then the
I'm wrong
airport.
then.
Yeah, it might be a different
Yeah, I am thinking of.
style, but there was a Paradise Bakery that was big in Utah for a while, and there was one in Bountiful. So that might be it. But yeah, Panera only has one in Harriman. In fact, our mayor was disappointed we didn't get this one done sooner because he wanted to be the first, and now Harriman stole our thunder. So he got on kind of my case. He's like, "How'd you let that happen?" I'm like, it's not my fault.
It's far away, so I'm sure a lot of people still like coming to this one.
Well, with that,
I'll submit a motion that we approve the Panera Bread preliminary site plan request located approximately 4130 South Riverdale Road, Riverdale, Utah 84405, as requested by Perigee Consulting and the Panera Bread Group, upon the condition of meeting the items as noted and complying with those as noted by staff.
I'll second the motion.
all in favor?
Yes?
Yes.
Yes. And we don't need to poll on this one, do we?
I would have pulled this one.
Would you? Then let's
Yeah.
poll it.
Commissioner Spires,
Yes.
Commissioner Polson,
Yes.
Commissioner Noland,
Yes.
Commissioner Herman,
Yes?
Commissioner Eskelson,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson.
Yes.
Okay, you're in. Unanimous. Thank you so much. And that is, do the planning commission have anything that they would like to say?
Can I ask one question, Mike, to you? That old furniture building, is there any anticipated issues as far as delays on that demolition, as far as
I can't
this going forward?
I can't say too much, but just know that the RDA will be involved in that site to some capacity without saying too much.
Okay.
Yeah. So I guess what I can say is the RDA has a vested interest in having that building removed, and it's part of the RDA overall plan and all the efforts over the last 8 or 9 years to get that area developed up. And this is kind of, you'd almost call it like a major piece, a major final piece, at least along the fringe of Riverdale Road to see done. So yeah,
Okay.
there's
Yeah,
going to
and
be,
so that they can complete that road along the south side, all right?
because if that building stays there, it's just problematic with it being there, with how big it is, and that site's hard to develop with it being there.
You know, like some buildings, seems like it has reasons and issues why they can't move very fast, and it's slowing up the process.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if this is one of those.
Let's
for that
put it
reason.
this way: the mayor and the RDA are motivated to see that building not there.
All right, if there's nothing else, submission.
I just want to say,
Oh, yes.
I just want to say thank you for the city and all of us that went to the Planners Day. That it was really good.
I was hoping you'd say something. I was actually going to push for somebody to say
It was really, really good.
Yes,
And
I agree.
I think all of us that went got quite a bit out of it. And I'm going to email all the council members, and
Was it better than last year?
lots better.
Oh, good,
It was really, really good.
good.
The mayor gave me permission to do that.
Okay, good.
I was gonna say good luck.
Oh, they won't care.
I will.
Very good.
I will add to that and just note that although I don't like it, I can at least, as a result of the conference, have a better understanding of why the legislature thinks that they have to take the tactics that they are taking. I'm hopeful that the League of Cities and Towns will still push back, but I have a better understanding of where they're getting some of their ideas. Let's put it that way.
Right.
Now, that doesn't mean I endorse or agree with the position they're taking, but I understand it, whereas before I didn't even understand it. So that at least was a takeaway from the
They
conference.
did bring a lot to our attention.
Yeah. Now I think that what they're pushing and trying to regulate is still well beyond the spectrum of what they should be trying to regulate. That's a whole different discussion, but I did appreciate understanding it.
We were aware of that
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah. Yeah. It was very, very good. It was very
I'm
informative.
glad. The wedding I was at was wonderful.
But I thought it was very good.
I did too, yeah. Yeah, it was, I think it was better than what I was at, and I was 2 or 3 years ago, yeah, when I went before.
Good.
I missed it. Trying to get my wife retired from Hill Air Force Base. It was 10 pounds of paperwork. It was ridiculous.
Yes, thank you. It was good. And it was good the mayor was really glad that we had a good presence there.
He was really thrilled. He said, "I think this is the first time we've ever had five planning commissioners here. This is really good."
Yeah, I know the year I went, I was the only one, and nobody from the city council went. Yeah. That year either.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
And that is unanimous as well. Thank you, everybody.